Welcome back into Social Replay. Captain, my friend, how we living?
What's up, Dalen? How are you, sir? How are you?
Good. I'm overlooking the Vegas Strip. It is pitch black outside still. I want to know your commitment to social, to you and to the podcast. You know how hard it is for me to walk away from a table last night? We walked away at a very good hour. The craps weren't going great. We found a way back to close to zero. Let's hit the bricks. Let's get a good 6 hours of shut eye.
Well, we did you a favor, evidently. Don't say, oh, hey, I'm doing this for you. That was a favor that was done for you. You need something to get you to walk away.
You ain't lying, brother. It was a bloodbath there for a while, like a freaking bloodbath for a while. KB, Chris Budden, rolled us back into even, bro. Just a phenomenal performance, and she just learning what's going on like she'd played before. But she rolled for about 30 minutes. Table was loud and very, very aggressive. Happy, and got us back to okay, and made it a good night. But here for the Coaches vs. Cancer event that Lon Kruger hosts, American Cancer Society event, which is great. I love being part of this. This event itself raises millions of dollars, so fortunate to be out here, and also going to tee it up, my friend. We play in Shadow Creek here in about 6 hours, so looking forward to the damage I'm going to do to that course.
Love it, man. Love Vegas.
Do you? What is your thing that you like to do out in Vegas?
I mean,
because you're not a gambler, right? Like do you spend any money?
Yeah, I'll play.
Okay.
I'll gamble in a casino.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love the food. So there's a bunch of different restaurants that we'll go to there. And then we've gotten in. My wife doesn't drink, so we're really into going to shows out there. So we'll do that, and then I'll gamble. We'll come back from dinner, and I'll be out there. I'll be out there late.
What's the game of choice for the captain?
Blackjack.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Noted. All right. They have some big. I don't know if it's a conference out here. Like you couldn't get a flight out, bro. Like the flights were just blown out. Hence, we'll come back to that in a second. Middle seat, 5.5 hours. Tough. But there was some like electric dance thing that. The guy told me when he picked me up at the airport that like you're going to see some stuff. When I walked out of the air, like went to play at like 5 p.m. yesterday.
Yeah.
People were already geared up. I thought they were going out. They were coming back from whatever this thing. It goes like all night, and some people are raging through the course of the day, get a couple hours sleep, and then run it back. Like this is like Vegas on steroids, and they're out in like the desert somewhere with Tiesto's. Who like Tiesto plays out there. They play out there. You're going to see some stuff. The outfits were some stuff. And when I got in the elevator, I felt like an ancient old man. Like they felt like they were like 18-year-olds going to this thing. I was like, okay, this is different. I had no clue what it was. But that and then some other real estate conference, couldn't get a flight out here. The flights were crazy expensive. Used a ton of miles. I sat middle seat, my friend, 12B. Like we asserted dominance right away, and these two men cowered. They gave up. There was no fight in either of them, and we held on for the next 5 hours and 20 minutes. So I was very proud of the performance.
They saw you coming. They knew who they were dealing with.
They knew right away. These arms aren't moving, buddy.
Yeah.
They are not moving.
Yep. 5.5 hours. Dang.
Yeah, bro. It felt every bit of 5.5 hours. It was middle of the day flight too. So it just felt like I slept a little bit, but then I'm up. We're watching the PGA, watching the playoffs, which we'll come back to. Of course, the game wasn't entertaining. We're recording this Monday morning, so it was the Game 7 that was compelling for about 16 minutes, and then became a bloodbath. What I did do is watch your friends and neighbors. I threw up the flag for some recommendations and needed some thoughts. Derek gave me a couple things. We got those downloaded maybe for the way home. But your friends and neighbors, I started because you had mentioned you'd watched the first episode. Do you want to give the John Hamm new Apple TV show a what is this and thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm only 3 episodes in, but I love John Hamm, and so it was on. And then I'm watching another show on Apple, and I saw Friends and Neighbors. I was like, oh, let me try this out. Let me see what this whole thing is. And it's good. I've got a broad question I want to ask you. It's good. He's basically a hedge fund guy. I think he lives in Connecticut. I think that's the neighborhood they're depicting.
Seems like it. I think it seems like it's a Greenwichy, Westmont Village, but I don't know.
There's several of those vibe hedge fund Connecticut hamlets that exist right around you, but. Yeah, and so it's basically another one of these, and this is kind of the question I want to ask you, because I was watching a documentary last week about television in the 60s and the 70s, and you had your I Love Lucy's, your Brady Bunch, your Archie Bunkers, your Welcome Back Cotters, Good Times, you go. Then you get into the 90s and you've got your Full House, your Family Matters, your Growing Pains, like these depictions of middle-class life. You know, comfortable living, but nobody's over the top. And you had your one-offs. You had your Dallas and your Dynasty, and then you had your 90210. And it is interesting to me that we now have this depiction in almost every show that at least I watch, and I could be way off on this, where we have this depiction of obscene wealth, this glamorization of wealth, and it's usually rich white people doing bad things. I mean, Succession, Billions, White Lotus, even Yellowstone. I mean, it's, about Montana, but it's a wealthy ranching family. And then this is another one of those shows where we're depicting this, and the neighborhood, it starts out where you're thinking, okay, this is about John Hamm and his meltdown. But then as you get into a few more episodes, it's, about the wealth in this neighborhood and how these people behave and how they're their own little conclave of wealth and just the degeneration of that sort of environment. The wife is starting to have her meltdown with all of it. The depiction of rich white people doing bad things and the depiction of wealth now, with it's seemingly every show we're watching. Go ahead.
I think part of that is the anti-hero thing. Hamm was part of creating in Mad Men. Really, the first anti-hero is Tony Soprano. The big one. Like, that was, like, in terms of TV show, prestige show, where you're starting to root for a person that's not just conflicted, but you're like, that's a bad dude. And John Hamm in Mad Men, he's a conflicted man going through some stuff, and you're wondering, why do I want this guy to somehow manage this 3 different affairs he's having, kill it at the office, and be the best looking guy in town? Like, why do I want that to work out? What is going on here? And I think part of that, as we've gone in society, because you mentioned the old shows, I would throw the Cosby Show in there too. I know we're probably not allowed to talk about Bill Cosby anymore, but bro, last week when I was in Charleston at Kelsey's house, I'm sitting there with Kelsey and her mom. Cosby Show was on late night on some, I don't know what channel it was. They still have cable. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I felt the nostalgia just waft over me. That reminds me of my dad and how we wanted to grow up. These things were aspirational, is my point. You had these aspirational shows a lot of times in the 80s and 90s of how they wanted, it was mass media too, how they want society to try to want to be and what you should aspire to be. And there was the good-natured, there was the Archie Bunker piece of things, and there was, you could have some think back and forth at Jefferson's, there'd be some societal stuff, but by and large, you wanted to create these aspirational things that you would watch with your kids and the adults kind of together growing up. These things now are purely geared for us, really, as adults, and this desire that we have to create not even necessarily a real life thing. Like, there's the anti-hero piece of things, the complexity of humanity, the complexity of characters, and now with a show like this and like White Lotus, you are breaking down one of the biggest things in our society right now is the income gap. And the inequality we have in income and how people are living completely different lives. And that's the story they're telling here in White Lotus too. It's like, this story is completely different. And White Lotus in that last season is similar to this, because as you watch the show, even the preview is telling you, it's not a spoiler, John Hamm starts stealing from these people in his neighborhood. That's the whole thing. So, because he loses his job. So instead of being able to cut the facade and change the way he spends and not have as much money, it is, I'm going to do this thing, and because I have access to these rich white people that are living a completely disconnected life to reality, that I can get away with this thing. And I also, because I operate in it, whether the cops show up or not, I can kind of talk my way out of it because I am of this world. So I do think this has become, a lot of our shows reflect what society is or what they want it to be. Right now, they take a lot of the problems in society and we are magnifying them. And for some reason, whether it's Instagram or TV shows, people like to tune into opulence and wealth and excess, and then those people being bad or doing bad or their fall from grace seems to compel a lot of people and a lot of writers, because it seems like a lot of stuff what's making itself to the screen.
That's the comment, it seems. That's it's interesting because like in that documentary I was watching, they were interviewing Norman Lear for it, and the introduction of Good Times, for example, and programming for African Americans. Well, I guess the Black Panthers got to Norman Lear and were really upset by the depiction of that, the lifestyle, the economic lifestyle of Good Times. So that's when they came up with the Jeffersons. And then you have the Cosby Show, where you have an aspirational lifestyle. It's just as you start to see like sort of where television went, then you had like. You had that shit. You had 90210, you had Melrose Place, and you had like Gossip Girl, the OC. Like that's where it's interesting how this depiction of wealth starts to become. Because even Breaking Bad, I mean, that's obviously a middle class family. You've got a guy down on his luck, but the idea of growing wealth and wealth is the answer. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting how all that sort of infuses itself.
Honestly, that's what's glorified in our society. It has been forever. But when I think we see it much more now. Like you're every time you're on your apps or you're watching things, it's the mega yachts, it's so and so's house, it's this vacation house. Like it's everywhere. And I do think that our society too, the more there's a lot of vitriol, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of divisiveness. As we've gotten more like that, or it seems to be more like that, I think people again are writing to the culture a little bit, in the fact that if you write some positive, like it's weird that Ted Lasso was refreshing. Because it's this overt positivity and blind optimism and love for each other. But ironically, people love that because it's the one-off. If that becomes the norm, I think our society is too jaded to be like, I'm not watching this nonsense. But because it's who he is, and there's good characters, and it's well-written, and it's funny, it survives because it's unique in a space where if you put that show 20 years ago, it's not not unique in the space. It kind of just is what you're depicting a lot of times in terms of where we were at versus where we are currently.
Yeah.
One other thing on this. Can I get one other? You still on? I want just on this show too.
Yeah.
Because I found it interesting. Because he's obviously going through a divorce. There were a couple things that I think with television shows that you need to do. Like there have to be like basic. Like I hate this wouldn't happen in society. Like the guy that slept with his wife.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Is a 3-time NBA All-Star.
Oh yeah.
Like why is he living in their house?
Yeah, well, so there's that. There's that piece. I have no idea. Again, like this fictional depiction of something. But the other fictional piece of this is how, and I think I started the fourth last night, so I'm a little farther ahead. But like this idea that the two of them are going to be friends. The guy banged your wife, and now they were best friends prior to the NBA player banging his wife, which dissolved the marriage essentially. But this idea that they're going to be friends. I will also say about this show, I like the human piece of it. Like, I think the writing's smart. I think it's, all of that. It's not earth-shattering television, but it's fine. And John Hamm's devastatingly handsome. I mean, just ruggedly handsome. Rugged. If I may think about, I don't know.
You would.
I would think about it if he were. But the whole stealing, I thought it was like, we have to come up with a gimmick for this show. And so this guy's going to go rob his neighbors' houses. To me, it got a little cheesy. It's gotten a little cheesy on that end.
This is the same thing. It's like, bro, this guy's super successful. I get he's two-year non-compete. They make it sound like it's a noose around his neck. I get it in that business. But he would figure this thing out. You're not going to start just yanking stuff from your neighbors. But right. I do. If he wasn't the main character, I don't know if I'd watch. I love Amanda Peet. Love Olivia Munn. Like, she's phenomenal. And I'm not just saying, really. Her acting's good. She's phenomenal. But, there are, that disbelievable piece of, his best friend wasn't just banging his wife. He walked in and saw them. Right. They're not going to be friends. And the way she talks to him, the ex-wife, like he's a clown and he's still paying for all this stuff. Like, now granted, I got one that talks to me like I'm a piece of crap. But there's no attempted, friendship. Like, she's almost like, dude, you got to get on equal, she's pushing him to you got to be okay. Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. What do you mean what's wrong with me? Like, what are you talking about? It's crazy. The other piece of this, I think it's funny with the divorce, and obviously, I think it's so, because when he first was, they have a couple different guys that had come across him that are like, well, you're living the single life, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I went through something similar in the last couple years. And I find it so fascinating. There is an element of you now restarting your life, and you kind of, in my situation, kind of blew up my life previously. Not happy, not proud of that, and how that worked out. But you're sitting there being like, all right, well, what is next? What was right? What is right for me? What is right by my daughter? How do I move forward? And you have all these questions, and you're sitting here being like, for me, I'm renting a place in a crappy place while my now ex-wife and daughter in my house and trying to figure out how to make it work. And you've got all this stuff. And then you have married men be like, hey, dude, are you going out there and tearing it up? You got to be loving life. You got to be loving, bro. That is I wish you would have delved more into that. Nobody's doing that. At first, if you're trying to fix your marriage, you're not in a good mental state. And every one of your boys has a family. Like you guys want to live vicariously through you because you are now single. Yeah, we already did that when we were 20, in our 20s and maybe early 30s. That's over. If everybody has a family and you're the one sitting at home in some Milford, Connecticut apartment, you're not going out in New York City by yourself looking for some chicks. Like that doesn't sound appealing. It's not fun. It's not interesting. But the married guy envy of the single guy life who's like newly divorced, I find, or about to be divorced, I find fascinating because it happens in real life. And it's just so not what anybody's in their... Eventually, yeah, if you're ready to start raging, I get it. But you're not doing it with them. You're by yourself most times. You're not or you're finding guys that are way younger than you. You need some roll dogs. This is not how this works out. You don't just roll to a bar solo and start just firing off shots, especially in today's society. I don't think that works like that.
Yeah. Well, that's where this show makes a like they're their own animal. These rich white people, hedge fund people or accountants in a Connecticut neighborhood where that degenerate behavior is sort of, it's an expectation of the community, and you can't exist outside of that community. Like the idea that John Hamm is going to go out and make other friends. That's why he remains friends with the wife, which, by the way, Amanda Pete, I looked it up, 53 years old. Doing pretty good, man.
Look great, 53. I was going to look it up. I assumed high at 50. Good job. Good, well done.
Bro, there's also, not to sidebar real quick, there's a movie on Netflix called Nonas with Vince Vaughn. And it's about anyway, I don't want to get into the whole story because it's not that great of a movie. But the point of this sidebar is there's these 4 grandmothers who he brings in to be the chefs at this restaurant that he's starting. The 4 grandmothers, Lorraine Bracco, Adrian from Talia Shire, Adrian from Rocky, and then Susan Sarandon at I think I saw 75 years old.
Wow,
smoking.
What a cast! 75. I guess want to see what they look like.
Phenomenal.
That's as shallow as that is. I'm very interested in that.
Phenomenal.
Did you see Whole 9 Yards? Whole 9 Yards, Amanda Pete.
Yeah.
From like the late 90s.
Yeah.
Peak Amanda Pete, also topless. Well done. Anyway.
And then the one with Jack Nicholson.
What was that one?
With him and Diane Keaton when they.
Oh, Something's Got to Give.
Something's Got to Give. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was in that too.
Great.
Yeah. She's 53 years old. Doing
Okay.
very well. But anyway, that sort of idea that this animal grouping of these rich white folks in Connecticut can't exist outside of this habitat, and so they have to figure out a way for this to work through all the dysfunction.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You're right. I mean, it's a good point. The last thing I want to bring up on at least is also just how the first scene where he's at the bar by himself, and that 28-year-old who keeps saying 27 walks up to him.
Right.
This is also where I'm, maybe I'll just show complete superficiality. Here we go. He is John Hamm. He's a very attractive older man. Right. She knows that. She's saying that. In that society too, once we after post Me Too, because bear in mind when I was in New York in the late, the aughts and the early 10s, a lot of my friends were in finance, and that was a very incestuous industry. They all were. I worked in marketing and advertising, incredibly incestuous. Superiors, equals, whatever. Nobody really. It seemed like there was just chaos if you weren't married, especially. And some were married, were just doing whatever they want. It's wild. But then Me Too happens, and then all these guys, particularly in finance, like, I am out. Like, if a girl shows any interest to me, and we are in the same company, deuces. I'm not. We are not doing this. So for that woman to approach him, and him to be like, have all this negative, telling her about it in 10 years, in 20 years, he's projecting out what their life will be like, and I'm just trying to get laid. And he's like, okay, cool. There is no way he goes through with that. Like, there's no way that happens unless she's smoke. Just complete smoke.
You don't think so?
And I think you're miscast.
I think John Hamm just got divorced, who's in a bar by himself drinking. She walks up. You don't think so?
In his world. Because in his world, he does know what he looks like and the money he has in New York City. If you're going to do it, he can do that probably in another bar in the same way. It's like if that girl comes and propositions you, I feel like if you're now, because you are risking your career, which at that time he didn't have, his career was good, this first scene. He has no life. He has no wife. He has no kids. The only thing he has is his money and his career. And you're going to risk it for a person you know works at the company that's 25 years your junior. And it ain't like Selma Hayek walked over. It's not Halle Berry. So I just was just like, all right, we have This is this is an early red flag. Like there's no way this guy does this. I don't think. I just don't think because I think again, if he's not John Hamm, if he's an average-looking guy,
was
then
pretty
sure.
good looking. You're taking straight.
He's fine. He's John freaking Hamm,
and
bro,
he's a
and
guy.
He knows what he looks like in the world.
It's
okay.
I mean, fine.
He knows how he operates on the planet,
dude. If you're out hunting and a deer walks in your line of sight, you're not going to stop. I mean, you're going to shoot.
Well, if I have a deer and there's a massive buck like 20 yards over, maybe I turn and look at the buck.
All right, fair enough.
Buck's a bad example here. A better-looking deer. I don't know.
Well, it ruined his life.
I
mean, ostensibly.
Exactly. So. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
By the way, that was the best.
In your hands.
That was the best the writing got, I thought, in that series. That first season was smart. It was quick. It was back and forth. The show's okay, and I'm gonna finish the season. Just because I do like the scene, man. I like the whole vibe, even though I would never.
But you're touching on why do you think you like the vibe of this rich white
I think you hit
debacle?
it, bro. This escape, this idea of escapism, this idea of I mean, in the last episode, the guy just pulls out a Rolls Royce. I mean, just like the lifestyle, even though. The gray morality of the whole thing, like I would never want to exist in that world, and I'd be completely fish out of water. But yeah, I got to keep watching.
Yeah. Well, how many episodes we got here? What are we working with? Do you know?
No,
You're
good
ahead
question. I started 4 last night and I fell asleep.
All right, I'm two in, so I'm interested. But you're right. That first scene, because the first scene is one of those shows too, which has become a White Lotus is the same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's dead. Something happened. That's going to be your grabber. But that next scene when he's in the bar, that one really, that's when I got locked in. I'm like, man, okay, this is, because it was well written. It's Hamm kind of cooking.
Yeah.
She's on his, acting-wise, she's hanging right there with him. She's doing it, like, scene's a great scene. It's well portrayed by the 3 douchebags that she leaves. Like, the whole thing is well constructed. And then the acting overall is pretty, the show is good. It's got some issues, though. It's got some things. Hold on one second. We'll edit this out. What time is it? 22:03. Sorry, the maid is at my house. And there's nobody there. Let her in. 22. What did I say? 22:03. Let's write that. Can you write that down for me? I don't have a pen.
Definitely.
And let me turn off the alarm so she doesn't lose her shit. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
3, 2. Back up at 23. Yeah, man, good show. I'll keep it going. We're gonna keep it going. Shogun, Derek told me about. I got to check out. Apparently, I don't know if you've seen that. It won a bunch of Emmys and stuff like that. And The Diplomat on Netflix.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that the other day to me.
Okay.
West Wing vibe said it's really good.
Are we encroaching on like Ed and Verk's corner right now? I feel like the random TV reviews we're getting to at the beginning of shows.
Well, I think it says more about what. First of all, I'm a like I love just checking out different shows and getting locked in. So it's not. I mean, that's my. But it also says a lot about the sporting calendar too. I think.
It's true. That's well said. On that note, do you want to talk like the playoffs? It's funny that both those like the Game 6 and Game 7 like anticlimactic. But now the Knicks fans. And they got to a conference final for the first time this century. I'm sure you saw the scenes. We've talked about it before. You're shaking your head already. It was like bedlam, and we're in a conference finals.
Yeah. What do you think that is? You think that, first of all, it's the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not like you made the finals. It's not like you won a title. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh my God.
If they win a title, they might burn that mother down.
And there's so much of that fan base or fan bases like it that I feel the reaction is more of the expectation. This is how we're supposed to. There's an animalistic reaction that it's like, wow, this is good. Like, what do you attribute that to?
I think you hit the animalistic. I was gonna say it's because it's almost like this instinct of we're out here on that in that plaza, right on 33rd and 7th, 32nd and 7th, right where the garden is there, and all those people are out there. That you're allowed to congregate there. It's like. We're not allowed to take over. Nope, they're not going to stop us. It's like a mob mentality.
Yeah.
And the cops, in some regards, like they're kind of in on it. They want the Knicks. Some of these guys want the Knicks to win too. Like they're not stopping the chaos. And it's like the fans are going to take it as far as you let them. And it's almost like a revolt against the city. They're doing whatever they want. They're stopping traffic. They're climbing things. Like it was a scene, man. I'm like, dude, if they win this thing, the next round, I don't know how you one up that. That was a championship level celebration. That was a release on epic proportions. And when you do look at a lot of that crowd, that fan base, a lot of that fan base is really freaking young. They didn't live through the 90s where they had clear recollection of what was going on there. And how close that team was to winning a title that had the heartbreak. There are a lot of those fans. We talked about that last week. So those scenes, I knew people would be just typical Knicks fans yelling, going nuts, and like we already talked about, probably saying Knicks in 4 over the Pacers, blah, blah, blah. But those scenes, I was like, dude, looks like you guys won a championship, and you haven't even hung a thing worth a banner yet. It wasn't like NBA Finals appearance, if they even hang those. I don't know, but they'll probably want one if they get there.
Yeah, it was... Then Russell Wilson, you and I were going back. Russell Wilson with his sunglasses indoors and his Giants jacket.
Oh, God.
Is there a douche here? I mean,
no.
Russell Wilson.
As soon as we signed him last year, I was just like, God, this guy's brutal. Do you remember the story whenever if you Googled it, he posted something on on Twitter at the time about, it was like some line about, but Ciara was who he was talking about, his wife. But this is like 7 or 8 years ago. And if you Google like what to say to a beautiful woman, somebody did this. I don't know why somebody thought in their head, like, it's the first response was the same thing that he basically cut and pasted this line.
Yeah.
Because it was from something. So somebody recognized something, they Google it in, it's the first thing. And I'm like, dude, you want to post something about your chick, great. You can't think of one thing to say that's just from you. Right. You were that unoriginal that you had to Google the freaking thing?
Right. That's one of my favorite Seinfelds, when that woman, remember she writes Jerry a letter.
Oh yeah.
And it's verbatim from a movie, and he catches it while the movie's on, and he picks it up as the line is being recited on the show. He picks up the letter and starts reading it verbatim.
Because she was trying to get back with him, and she's like something about like you won't let your guard down to know that I love you too, or something, whatever. And he reads the line out loud. Yeah. He was mad because she plagiarized it more than anything else.
Yeah. And then he spent instead of directly asking her, he spent the episode, trying to pull it out passive aggressively.
You know what's come across my timeline now excessively is Curb Your Enthusiasm feeds and the one I feel out, it's like scenes with just Larry David and Leon.
Yeah.
I could watch them all day.
I know.
I'm like a full-on addict. Like those two together, what an addition to the mix with Leon's character. Oh my God.
He took that show to another 5 years. I mean, he was on longer than that, but like that addition of his character is. Hey, real quick on the NBA playoffs, do you think the 4 teams that we have here, break that down?
Break that down
in terms of a viewing experience.
Well, from a viewing experience, I think the Western Conference could be fun. You got a lot of young, talented athletes, good players. Now, again, not what the NBA wants in terms of markets. But if you want to build new stars, you need the young guys to be in the game. And Anthony Edwards could be the next guy. You need Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, could be the league MVP. You needed, Jokic had his moment. The Nuggets had their time. If you're the league, yesterday, you want it to happen the way it happened. You want maybe a closer game for ratings, but you want OKC to keep moving. That's good there. You do have the Knicks and their fervor, and people love or hate them. They want to watch that. And you got Pacers and you got Tyrese Halliburton. So you have these next-level guys that are getting their moment. So I think from a viewing experience, the Western Conference, I think, should be fun and more entertaining basketball. And the Eastern Conference, I mean, this is historically speaking, used to be like that too back in the day. Maybe a little bit more of a grinder. You're going to have a team that's, and the Knicks, we've already kind of broke them down and how they're led and the culture, and we love and respect what they're doing. The Pacers want to play at pace. The Knicks maybe want to slow it down a little bit more. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a grinder there relative to an NBA product, if you will. But overall, I think it's an interesting Final Four because it's not the one we all expected. And I think when you get to that place in the NBA playoffs, it's a good place to be because you may actually get some casual fans tune in, and you're going to get a lot to tune out because they don't know the headliners. So I'm interested to see how the country responds to these 2 series.
Yeah, the environments have been phenomenal, and you do have 4 really, voracious fan bases that are going to turn out. The Oklahoma City thing is interesting to me. That has to become Oklahoma City and the Thunder have to become a thing. They've been the best team in the league. The job that they have done as an organization building what that team is the example. Mm-hmm. That fan base is great. I mean, they're doing a theme night every game at home. There's some different color shirt that they're. Anyway, that's gotta Oklahoma City somehow has to become a thing. But you do. I mean, outside of New York, you've got 3 other markets that on paper you'd look at and be like, this isn't great. But those fan bases turn out. Obviously those teams seem like they're going to be here because of the young stars, like you said. They're going to be here for a minute. So I like it. I was curious how you were interpreting this.
There has to be. I feel like the amount of praise that's heaped on Sam Presti, the GM for OKC, is not enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, think about this. Like, he has built this thing. Now through the draft 15 years ago, you had KD, Westbrook, and Harden on a team. You couldn't hold them all. Small market team. You got to send some guys off. You make moves over the last 7 or 8 years where that trade with the Clippers for SGA was huge, and the assets you're getting back. He's hit on like every first round pick they got back. They stockpiled picks. They were patient, and they built their team in the way that he wanted to play, and built it around SGA in a lot of ways. Like, that just doesn't happen in that league very often, where you can get these 3 generational dudes on a team. He can't hold them, and with about a decade later, you've now flipped this thing to being not just relevant; they're the 1 seed. Yeah. Like that is so hard to do in that league, in that market. And to hit on the draft picks. We see draft picks in that sport all the time be bust. It is a futures market. Whether it's a guy they took Lou Dort was a freshman, Holmgren freshman, SGA sophomore, I think. Like, you have young dude after young dude after young dude. Jalen Williams was off the radar at Santa Clara. I remember seeing him at the Combine a couple years ago. He owned the floor. I'm like, because he played in the Combine. That's how off the radar he was. If you're good or you're picked you think you're a first round pick, you don't play in the NBA Combine pickup games. He did. He owned the floor for a day. And they didn't play the second day because he was so good. And his agent's like, you've done enough. They've hit on all these guys. And they built something. And that crowd does it has a collegiate atmosphere to it. And they love their team. And their team is representing their city well.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They are. And they're fun to watch. They are fun to watch.
We have the first games, Tuesday and Wednesday. Do you have I could look at the betting lines. Knicks is the favorite on one side. I assume OKC is the favorite on the other side. Yeah. Who do you like either way?
I like Oklahoma City. I do think the Knicks are gonna beat Indiana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, would you have been better off with Cleveland, even though the 1 seed? Is Cleveland a better dynamic in that spot than Indiana? I don't know. I mean,
probably not. I do think Indiana has a little bit more marketable guys, maybe, and I mean, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily 6 and 1 half dozen the other. I think there aren't many people that could people know who Tyrese Halliburton is. I think, or starting to. Partially, he was on the Olympic team. Partially because of his dad and the blow up on the court, like that thing went viral. Let's be real. He's had a couple social media moments with young ladies late night that go beyond the scope of sports that he's been that have caught viral attention. So I think there are, people may have an awareness of who he is, which helps keep people interested. But yeah, man, it'll be fun to watch, and it'll be cool because somebody new's winning. I mean, when was the last time any one of these teams won a championship? Yeah. Is it the Knicks? Are they the most recent, which is over 50 years ago?
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on. I was looking through our old show sheets, and they're from weeks. This is 2 months ago now. You're like, you may be reluctant to bring up the Bill Belichick thing. You were saying it to me, and I think you were ahead of the game, as we've already covered on this. This was going to be a thing. It's not just that Belichick and his girlfriend are a thing. In the ACC meetings, 10 days ago now, the biggest thing to come out of the ACC meetings was that she did not attend the ACC meetings in Amelia Island. Right. Like, everybody was wondering, is Jordan going to be here? Pablo Torre, find his role within this media story interesting. If you don't know who Pablo Torre is, went to Harvard, really smart guy, was an ESPN employee for years. He and Bomani Jones, 2 of the smartest guys in sports talk, they gave a show called The Right Time. The show tanked. It was like two guys too smart talking to themselves and losing an audience that couldn't follow these guys in their intellect, I think, in some regard. Just didn't find them compelling. He is now the lead. This is his beat. It's like every day he has some sort of Belichick story. He broke the news that UNC said that she couldn't come to the facility. UNC had to rebut it. Pablo Torre's on Dan Patrick's show as a guest just to talk about this. This is a guy that has, as we talk about different areas and avenues in sports media, he saw an opportunity, I feel like, and has gone all in to owning this beat and now getting, I think, more media attention based on covering this versus being what he usually has always been and still is, like a really smart, thoughtful, interesting broadcaster. But this has become something that has broken him out. I find that concerning and strange.
Yeah, I agree. He's on it. He's on it big time. I think, first of all, he had a source. May have been multiple, but he had one. It started with one source within Carolina. And that source begat another source. And as these things typically, it becomes a self-fulfilling deal. There's two things that became clear to me specific to Pablo's covering of it. One, he knew there was something here. I mean, it's kind of what I was saying to you a couple weeks ago. The story here, well, I'll get back to it because I want to ask you a question about a take I thought I heard you say a couple weeks ago. But the other piece to this is there clearly are people within Carolina who know this is a problem and are willing to talk to Pablo. I mean, he's getting more information from people within Carolina now, than he was even 3 weeks ago. He's doing what any journalist, if he considers himself that, certainly playing one here, he's just doing what any journalist would do. The more sourcing you get, the more information you get. And it's a story that, you said it's not going to go away. And it's Bill Belichick. Yeah. And it's a public university that, when we sort of just touched it briefly a couple weeks ago, I heard, and I may have heard you wrong, it sounded like you were kind of putting this on her. Like you had said something about how, well, any 28-year-old or however old she is, any 28-year-old, 24-year-old. She's only 24.
She's younger than Chad Baker-Mazara, who's was a guard on Auburn's Final Four team. Yes, there you go.
I'm giving her more credit.
25. No.
When you're 24, 25 years old, you feel like you know everything and you can run the world. Is that sort of what I heard from you?
Yeah, I'm not putting it on her. That is her. Like that interview showed to me like she's asserting herself in the situation, capitalizing on the opportunity. I know what's good. I know what it is. Like in your 20s, you don't know anything. I think your 30s, you realize a little bit you don't know crap. In your 40s, you hope to fix it or figure out who you are. I don't know. I feel like this is the decades-long journey of life a little bit. But in your 20s, you sure as hell know everything. So yeah, I think in some regard, this storm is on her. But I think that's self-fulfilling. That's not a bad thing for her. This is all good for her. We know her name. She owns these properties. Whether this relationship makes it or not, she now has a space within our pop culture that who knows what that becomes. If we're going to run potentially a reality show to become a U.S. citizen, which is being mulled about in the Department of Homeland Security, who knows what show she can spin off? Who knows what's going to go on there? Like, if there's any opportunity once you have some name value or name recognition in our society. So yeah, that's on her. For Belichick, the other side, he's not like guilt-free in this. He's the one that put her on my first issue was when he told everybody in the department, every email you send me, put Jordan on it. That's the first red flag from him to be like, then I'm going home as assistant coach, protecting my wife, be like, I'm talking about a recruit, I got to put her on there? Like, what the hell does she know about recruiting an offensive lineman? Like, what are we talking about here? So it's both parties, but I think her forceful nature of it is, I know what's good. I'm 25. I got all the answers. Here we go.
Yeah.
You disagree?
No, I don't necessarily disagree. I think when you're 24 years old, you're going to do whatever people allow you to do, and I agree. You think you know more than you really do. I think the under-discussed thing here is Carolina's role in all of this. I mean, I understand he's Bill Belichick, but Carolina, get your shit together. This thing it got out of control.
Yeah, completely.
That's why you have sports information departments, and to a larger degree, why universities have PR departments. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Carolina has allowed this thing to get out of control, and in part because he's Bill Belichick.
Yeah, of course.
And in part, there was an implicit trust there that Bill Belichick, at 70 years old, knew what he was doing. Because as I said to you a couple weeks ago, this is a man, I mean, this is why I think somebody like Pablo finds this story so compelling, is this arc that a guy like Bill Belichick is on here. This is a guy who was the definition of control, was the definition of the message. I mean, that was the control he exerted over that Patriots organization, and the control he exerted over the media, or attempted to try to control. I mean, press conferences are legendary.
Yep.
How all of a sudden you allowed a 24-year-old hot piece of ass to just allow this thing to go so out of control, and then this clutching their pearls over an interview with CBS. I mean, this wasn't a local Raleigh television station. This was CBS. You did a sit-down interview with. And so that's where, I mean, and again, Pablo's got his sourcing, like he's got somebody in that department who called her a sociopath. And I actually had to look up the literal definition of sociopath. She is exhibiting some markers.
Characteristics.
Some characteristics of a sociopath. But my thing is, it's not about her. She's going to do whatever you let her do. This is about Belichick losing the narrative, and then Carolina. What are you doing? How have you allowed this to get to this point?
I was trying to look up. I want to give the definition of sociopath: a mental health disorder characterized by disregard for other people. Symptoms. Antisocial. Come on. All right, edit that out. This Google did not get there. It gave me antisocial. I don't want antisocial personality disorder. What is a sociopath?
So 4140.
Yeah, 41. So just for our audience, a couple, you said markers. She's a couple words in the definition. Key traits: impulsivity, manipulative behavior, deceitfulness, and a disregard for the social norms and laws. We got some markers here. And that's interesting. I do think you live down there. Whenever Belichick came in, the question was, is he going to get Carolina football to the top? Are they going to win championships? Are they going to remake this? Is Carolina going to become a football school? Like, there was a fervor and intrigue and interest that was all football related. Has anybody talked about their football team in the last couple months? I've not heard a single thing. Is there a different vibe down there? Like, when you're coming across Carolina fans, how do they feel about what is going on? And to your point, how their university is now kind of perceived as he's a big brand piece of the university.
It seems that story seems so divorced from that university. It just is so. It's not even. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so unrelated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you're right. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Football has nothing to do with this. I think Bill Belichick, I mean, obviously he's not equipped socially to walk this planet, perhaps. I think he incredibly scarred by the way that whole thing ended with the Patriots. They left him out to dry, and I think it completely impacted him, and to the point of not being equipped to manage his own affairs. What he embarked upon after leaving the Patriots, I mean, to for example, to participate in that Tom Brady roast, I didn't think was a great look for him. Somebody obviously advised him to do that. Somebody advised him to get out there. Some of the stuff he did with Peyton Manning was good, you know, where they were sitting down at going through that stuff. Some of the stuff when he would go on their Manning cast, good. But I think Bill was so he's wired to do one thing, and I think he was so scarred by the way that ended, and he's not equipped. He was not equipped for this road ahead. The decision to go to Carolina. I mean, I said when it first happened, I think I said it to you. There are more reasons why this is not going to work than it would work. I think it was misguided on the part of North Carolina football. I think it shows you how desperate, especially schools in the ACC, but how desperate everybody is to be relevant in football. It was an ill-advised move on their part. Belichick, this had nothing to do with wanting to make, to be a college coach or make football. I mean, this is just me talking. Wanting to make, to be a college football coach, but also to make North Carolina football good. I don't think there's any connection there. It's just amazing. And I think back to the point why you brought this up to Pablo Torre, I think he just sort of saw this and was like, it's almost like, is this thing on? Like, does everybody understand what's happening here? Like I said to you, like, could you imagine the greatest coach in any sport, Nick Saban, whomever, going on this type of an arc after he left Alabama? All of a sudden, Nick Saban's dating a 24-year-old who just completely takes control of his life and the narrative? It's wild.
It is wild. That's why we love salacious things. We love scandal. We also love a fall from grace. We love to build people up and tear them down. And we also love things we don't understand. Like this is, now, from a carnal knowledge standpoint, we get that point. 50 years, the junior, we already got that. We understand the physical piece of it. The actual how you're letting life be run. When technically, again, he is still the person in the relationship, you would think, from the outside, that has the power in terms of the money, the success, the control, the job. She has literally co-opted all of that as the partner next to him at 24 years old, which is truly fascinating and somewhat concerning. And that's why guys like, I think Barkley was on with somebody where he was saying that, this was like a couple weeks ago, I'm going to call Bill. I'm a little worried about him. Like, that's what people that are like, it's that out of character that you're concerned about the human being being like, what the F are we doing here? This makes no sense. Bro, you're not kidding. I used to cover that Patriots locker room. It's my worst assignment. Nobody said anything.
Really?
Press conference was miserable.
Yeah.
It was, unless Gronk said something stupid, the whole day was hellacious out there because their whole thing was, we don't give you anything. We are not here for you. We don't need you. We have to do this, and we're moving on because we're here to win football games. We're here to win championships. That's all we care about because that's all that Bill cared about. And that permeated the organization. What permeates the organization now seems like a lack of control, a completely lost individual personally, and you wonder what that looks like professionally with the team. We'll find out. They're going to play some games here in 3 or 4 months. We'll have a clue what the product looks like on the field, but right now, the story just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And he for a guy that hates the media so much, the fact that he is in the zeitgeist of the pop culture and the media conversation almost weekly now, I find him remarkably ironic, and he's got to hate it, but maybe not. I don't know.
And it's even worth, I mean, I am of the position that Carolina should be embarrassed by it, but maybe not. Maybe you have a different view of that.
Maybe. I mean, they do say there's no publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity. I don't know if I agree with that. If I'm Carolina, I'm like, this is not what we signed up for. Hence why I would be one of those people on the back channel to Pablo or anybody being like, we're not all about this. We need to figure this out. We don't like this. A dissenting view. But then the organization had to send out, no, we love Jordan there and we support Bill. Whatever that statement they put out afterwards.
Yeah. And then he stuck by his. He had reported she was removed from the facilities. They came out and said, no, that's not true. And he said, no, I'm sticking by this. I've got sourcing.
Yeah. Which, again, I imagine he went back to them and they're like, no. We just, like, because he wants to be right, obviously, but I think there's an element of the people that are behind the scenes being like, this is not necessarily good for us. So how do we get a counter narrative out there or our narrative out there a little bit more? And Pablo has been the vessel, which I find really interesting. Did not expect that.
Well, and you said it best. This is not going away. We'll be talking about this certainly when the football season starts.
You ain't lying. And before that, for sure, I imagine. Last one to hit on in terms of the sporting weekend. PGA Championship, Scottie Scheffler wins again. The guy, he hasn't even played that well this year relative to his past great years, but wins that, kind of going away. Not your dude. Not compelling to you?
Did you see the note I put in the doc?
It says phenomenal talent, effect of a wet blanket. Scottie Scheffler, effect of a wet blanket. There you go.
I didn't mean that. I was just trying to get a laugh out of you.
You did.
He is so far ahead of the field. And one of the things that's so amazing to me about this particular weekend, but he's done this before, is, that old line of to be at your best when your best is required. Mm-hmm. And so on Saturday, He closes out. I love how we've gone. They're calling this the Green Mile. Like that became like this 16, 17, and 18 of Quail Hollow. Beautiful course, by the way. Well done, Charlotte. Love Mecklenburg County getting a little love.
The Mech, the aquatic center too. We had a duel in the pool there.
We
did.
So the way he closes out on Saturday, I think he was 5 under on the last 5 holes or something like that. Basically says, I am going into Sunday with a substantial lead. And then that thing gets tied, the last few holes there. I mean, at 9 under. And what does he do? Now John Rahm has a meltdown, but he just shuts the door. There's also, like, I don't want to go into swing doctor here, but like I have an appreciation for sort of the natural way in which he swings a golf club. Reminds me a little bit of Bubba Watson, where there was like that sort of gunslinger nature. I trained myself. I learned from YouTube how to swing a golf club nature to Bubba Watson. There's a little bit like that with Scottie, the way he opens. And just his ability to just summon great golf shots when he needs it. But my point in putting that down is to have somebody who is this remarkable, like who is this talented. Mm-hmm. He was arrested a year ago. I mean, like, that whole storyline is crazy to come back into different, obviously, venue, but same tournament to win it. Is he having the impact on the sport that somebody of that level of talent should? Because one of his gifts is how understated he is, his control of emotion and all that. Mm-hmm. But is there a counterproductive nature to that impact?
I think the Tiger has reset our bar on what we think golf should be in terms of impacting society and impacting people and the sports culture. Tiger was different. It was a different animal, and it wasn't about his personality necessarily. It was A, his performance, and B, what he looked like performing in that way. We had never seen that before. And then you couple that with his dad's involvement, his dad's brashness, his dad's confidence that he would change the world. And he said that when Tiger was like 15 years old. And Tiger's whole thing was, I'm here to win. Like, his unabashed, I'm here to blow up the past situation we had and the racial breakdown and the monetary breakdown. I'm going to reset how we look at things and who can be a great golfer. So I think there's that element of because again, Scottie's numbers in some ways compare to Tiger's in different eras of Tiger's career in terms of how many tournaments he's won, the majors, how he's performed. Some of his stats, tee to green. We know he's had putting issues in the past couple of years. We've gotten a little better, but he's the only guy that you can mention Tiger and throw in him now into some performance-related metrics. Personality-wise and then generally how we work in society, he's never going to have that impact or even close. And I don't think we should assess that to him. Like, the golf could use some personalities, and they have some that people have gravitated towards. Like Bryson DeChambeau, people like him or not. Like, he was a prick for a while. People started to hate him, and then now he's got YouTube channels, and he's opened up his life and talks to people and has turned things around, much more positive. People love him. And some people still don't like him. But he's a character. And he's the long irons, the big food. He's got all these different things that people kind of hook into. And he puts himself out there. Golf could benefit from more of that. But it has to be organic. And that's the thing. It's like Bryson's kind of gone on this journey and showed people the journey, and people have kind of gotten into it. Roy's journey is different, but people remain committed to him and support him and want him to win and feel him. I don't think Scottie gives a crap about any of that. Right. And I don't think he's going to make any effort to do it. So it's this, to your point, he is not going to be anything different than who he is. And who he is a guy that wins in his own way, with his own swing. It doesn't look beautiful, it doesn't look perfect. But he's going to go off with his wife and his kid and hang out and chill. Yeah. And that's what golf's got. Unfortunately for them, they could use a comet. They have, because in this world, in this marketplace we live in right now, it's an attention economy, and golf is being played more and more by more people and more young people. It's gotten on the rise there, but its ratings and people watching it, not the greatest.
It's so interesting. And to your point about Bryson, like, I was sitting watching with my son John last night, and he just floats out there, my favorite golfer is Bryson DeChambeau. I'm like, what? Because I'm in the camp of I could take or leave Bryson. I'm back in the days when nobody liked him.
I'm right there. I've not evolved. Yep.
Remember Brooks Koepka when he Bryson walked behind him and he paused the interview to give him like a sneer? Yeah. I'm in that camp. But because of the YouTube stuff, and I even said to John, I was like, he did like a video with Trump. He's like, well, he just played golf with him. I'm like, all right, tone it down. All right, I'm not having this argument with you. All right, over this. Anyway, I just want to be clear. I am somebody, and I've said this to you before. I love dominance in anything, in sports teams. Like, I want to see people dominate and be exceptional at a sport. I do think often about the movie League of Their Own, where Gina Davis ended up catching that pop fly behind her back. Mm-hmm. And Tom Hanks is like, what are you doing? And I'm trying to sell the sport. And so there's this dichotomy between dominating and being as good as Gina Davis was at playing catcher in the Women's Baseball League, but then trying to draw people to your sport. And it's not, he doesn't have to, like you said, I don't think he has a care in the world about it. He just wants to have his kid in the clubhouse while he's signing his card and go out and collect another trophy. But as you look at the road ahead for golf, and again, a lot of what golf became under Tiger was not by design. It was a minority playing golf. Like you said, the social impact oftentimes is what draws. It's just such an expectation that, that there is of somebody like a Scottie Scheffler to drive the sport into the future. And I don't know if his game, as good as his game is, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, he's not the guy that's going to carry the banner forward in terms of gaining popularity for golf in different ways. I do think LIV being part of the landscape didn't have the effect that I think people thought it would have.
Negatively,
these guys going to LIV Golf. What's up?
Negatively.
Well, no, I thought it would create a rivalry of the LIV guys versus the PGA guys, and let's tune into this tour and this competitive tour and this what's going on here with their teams and where they're playing all over the world. It's just kind of gone by the wayside. It's not easy to find. Media partners did not come to the door. It's on random networks at random times. I don't even know where those guys are relative to, I still know where every PGA event is every weekend, although some of the biggest names are playing on the other tour. And then we get them for the majors, and we get it. So now you're seeing the top competition like we want to see, but it did not create this type of rivalry with more golf out there in a different format to get people excited, and younger people. I don't think it accomplished its mission. I think it's kind of just done its thing. It may have done its mission for the PIF, the investment fund by Saudi Arabia. They might be happy with what they're doing, but from a global golf growth standpoint, I do not feel like it's done its thing. I do wonder too, Tiger also was very calculated in what he did. He wasn't out there, he was not the type to be. It wasn't a force of personality character-wise in terms of like a great. He was just his dominance was so great, and again, he was a unique comet, and it was a global impact. They could use more personalities. Like, you do need some of your like Colin Morikawa is a great player, understated. Like, you can go Jason Day, great player, understated. Like, you could they're great players that have some personality, but like that show Full Swing, I watched a couple episodes, which is the Drive to Survive, but for golf on Netflix. And I thought, okay, if you can show some of these guys their personalities and their orbit and how they operate, it might get some other. They're just not that compelling. Like the guys you just don't have that many dudes to choose from. Whereas you compare that to Drive to Survive, you give me this whole world with these people fighting in this male soap opera. I'm in. Like, you're showing me all this stuff, and you have some weird, quirky personalities. You got crazy team principals that are out of their freaking mind that drop F-bombs every other word. You're like, this guy's a global icon? Like, what's going on here? You just don't have any of that existing, and not any, but just at a much smaller scale with your better players. You have to be good to really garner that type of attention.
Yeah, well said.
Anything else there?
No, wet blanket. Is that what you say? The effect of a wet blanket?
It worked for me. It got a good laugh for me. I read that. I was like, all right, here we go.
I didn't mean it. I just wanted to get a laugh out of you. That's my mission in life.
Don't you take it
Make
back.
you smile.
You stand by your wet blanket. It worked. You stand by that, Scotty. That's what the captain thinks. Here's what I think. Let me ask you a question. Social Replay Podcast at gmail.com. Social Replay Podcast at gmail.com. Send us a note. My friend, the captain, would you like to go first?
No, you go ahead.
All right. I think a lot of these times we have fun ones, we have entertaining ones. This is a more serious one. I find this interesting, and I think this is a question purely really for you, because I think somebody brought this up to me. because of our job working in broadcasting, like, do you ever have this like imposter syndrome? This element of like, do I belong? I'm out here with this microphone talking on ESPN or on NBC or on Fox, whatever, and I'm, maybe I didn't play in this game or in this building or in this experience. Do you ever have that? How do you kind of combat that? And I always talk about preparation and film and all this other stuff, but I have never felt that as much in this business. I know people do. The question for you, this is why it's serious. Coming out of school, when you go in the Army and you are deployed, do you feel like an imposter syndrome as you go to a bunch of enlisted men and now you are their commanding officer? Did you feel that? How do you process that? What is that like to then? That seems like this thing we were talking about on a small scale with business or a job, in just a whole different real life element that you lived. I just find it interesting to ask.
No, it's a great question, man. I like you. I mean, I deal with that a lot. The dynamic, it's interesting because you come out of West Point a second lieutenant, and you immediately are, and you're in charge of a platoon. Like I was in charge of a platoon of 35 soldiers, many of whom had been in the military. I mean, the platoon sergeant that I had when I first got out had been in the military for 20 years. Wow. 20 years. I mean, he had done stuff for Desert Storm. There were corporals and specialists who had been in for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And not only do they have more time in service, but you're making more money than them. I mean, officers make more money than enlisted soldiers. So there's that whole dynamic. And then there's the West Point dynamic where West Point officers are seen, I'm sure this is depicted in some movies, West Point officers are seen differently than like an officer candidate school or an ROTC coming. They just are. They're seen as a little bit more pompous, arrogant, I have all the answers kind of a thing. So you're fighting against that. I was and I got great advice when I was getting ready to graduate. Two things. First of all, being an athlete helped. So the fact that I could, during rec time, I could go play basketball with soldiers, and that helped. You know what I mean? And I during PT in the morning, like I could run and do all that stuff. That helped. If you can do stuff physically, with soldiers, it's one quick way in that world to earn respect. And then the other thing I did, man, and I got great advice from a guy, he was my TAC officer anyway, when I was getting ready to graduate, and he said, always answer a question with a question. So if, for example, platoon sergeant says, okay, what do you want to do here? Well, what do you think we should do? What would you do if you were me? And then 99% of the time, I would always go with what he or she, but in this case, he was suggesting. Now, there were times where, like, I would have been in a meeting that he wasn't in, that I'd have more of a broader perspective. Well, actually, I think they want it, or maybe there was culturally something with the platoon that I wanted done that, hey, let's do it this way. Maybe this is the best way to communicate it. But I spent like my first 2 years always, especially with those type of enlisted soldiers, always answering a question with a question. And then the other thing I did, man, is I tried to elevate, like the military, you get so many different, we all wear the same uniform. And because of the rank, there's this assumed way that we're all supposed to communicate with one another. It's very easy to lose sight of the fact that you have people coming from all different backgrounds. I mean, just all different, crazy different backgrounds. What that means is you get some people who are just there to draw a check that aren't going to give you much. Some people who are doing their best, they're just not equipped to, move us forward in the most, positive direction. And then you get some really talented people who you're like, man, you're only a private, but you are destined for great things. So in those cases, like I would try to elevate those people, be it offline, you grab them aside, you give them a little more responsibility, those type of things. So you're sort of cultivating the relationship with your most talented people. But it's a great question because especially, I felt it a little bit when I got to Duke, when I got out of the Army. Joined Duke because I was the only guy who hadn't played there. I was working with, Johnny Dawkins was there, Collins, Wojo, Chris Carrawell. Like, these are great Duke players. There was an imposter syndrome there. But I think it's something that I've just tried to be intentional about, about directing, and then being worthy of. You sort of blew by it, but it's the point of all points. Like, I may get hired here because of this relationship, or I may get hired, but you're not keeping those jobs. You know what I mean? Like, you're not keeping that unless you're worthy of that. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, that was very, very interesting answer. One of the things, just a follow-up question on when you asked a question, answered a question with the question, did you felt that those guys felt empowered by that? Like, what did you view as their response as you were doing, especially early on?
They felt like I was trying. I think they saw right through it. I think I probably wasn't the first person. That's not a new technique. Obviously, somebody had passed it down to me. But they just want to know that you understand the dynamic. Hey, look, man. And here's the great thing about the military and about the NCO Corps, the non-commissioned officer corps, is all their only interest, and I'm generalizing, but this is most of them, especially the guys who have been in that long, their only interest is whatever's the best for the United States Army. And so you being good at your job is ultimately what's best. And so a lot of them, while they wouldn't overtly say it, I got you, LT. I got you. We're gonna get through this. They kind of pat you on the head, and then I would appreciate it. Rub it a little. Would you just rub my head a little? I could use a little bit of that. All they wanted was they wanted to know that you cared about that dynamic and that you were willing to finesse it, and it usually worked.
Last question. You said you were playing hoops with them.
Yeah.
Were you getting buckets on guys?
Yeah,
what was going
buckets.
on?
Yeah, I was getting buckets. Serious buckets.
So where were you? Set the scene. Where are you hooping? Are you saying once you were deployed overseas? Like, what's going on?
Oh, so there were two of them. Yeah, so there was a rec center at Fort Sill that we would go play on Saturdays, and we'd be there.
Where's Fort Sill?
In Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay.
It's like an hour southwest of Norman.
Wow.
It's this really blue collar. I would never want to go back there. It's actually crazy to think that I even lived there. But I've talked to Dusty Dvorak. It was about Lawton, Oklahoma. So it's Fort Sill, home of the Field Artillery. So I was a Field Artillery officer, which was my branch, indirect fire. And
Sweet.
there was a rec center. So you go down every Saturday. Or sometimes we do it during PT, and if we weren't running or doing other stuff, you'd go down there and play, and you choose up to. And that was when, you felt most comfortable. Talking shit, picking teams. I'll take this group, and we'll beat you guys, kind of a thing. And that was where you could really make your mark. And then when I was deployed, where we were living, there was they had a court. They had built like this court surrounded by these cement, this barbed wire and cement blocks. I'll show you photos sometime.
Wow.
And they would have these tournaments. It was awesome. Like when you were not outside the wire, you were back. They would have these tournaments. And so we had our little team, our little unit team, and we were playing hoops in a combat zone. It was you'd hear small arms fire, you'd hear stuff going off in the background.
But you're still playing? You're
hooping.
Not like, because that's something else?
Yeah, no, still playing, hooping. And I hadn't brought hoop shoes, so I'm playing in these track sneakers.
Boots?
No, boots.
You playing in boots?
No, so it's a good morale booster, man. So they'd have these tournaments while we were over there, and we ended up winning one of the tournaments while we were there. Got this great team photo. I'll show you next time you're here.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, good bonding. Bro.
That's great, man. Good stuff. Yes, thoroughly answered the question. Enjoyed it. Thank you, sir, for sharing.
You still deal with any of that?
Not really. I think I don't know if it's a level of just blind arrogance or confidence in some regard that when I first was in the business, it was just I'd be nervous, but I'd be like, I think my first national games were on NBC, which I got that gig because it was an Ivy League package. So I was like, if there's one guy that's fit to do this job, it's me. Yeah. Like, I belong in this seat. It's as we branched further out, all right, now you're going to cover A-10 games. Well, I didn't know some of these coaches. You just kind of now you're comfortable with the job, and you're kind of branching out. The times I've had it is when you get outside of when I started getting outside of basketball. So it was the first time I'm hosting soccer shows and then calling play-by-play. And I'm like, am I a play-by-play guy? Am I doing, you start to kind of feel your way through it. And the reason I didn't feel like overwhelmed by it at times, it was a level of, I do think the preparation with this type of job, like if I've watched all the film and I know what I'm talking about, I know the name, like I can do this job well. Was I the greatest player? No, but because you're not the greatest player, it does not make you the greatest broadcaster. So I feel like that's been proven out time and time again, whether it's guys that are currently the number one guys, whether it's Kirk Herbstreit or Chris Collinsworth. You can just rip through, we've already gone through Brady, who was the best player. What is he as a broadcaster? There's no direct line of correlation to me. So I do think, as I branched out, there was a level of, can you feel confident doing this? Are you the right person for this? I'll give you one quick story where the most nervous I've ever been, ever. So I did the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, but I worked for NBC at the time. In 2014, I wanted to go to Rio. I'd been there in 2009 with my buddy who was raised down there, and my brother Marcus, and we went on an awesome trip. Loved the culture, loved the food. And yes, in 2009, thoroughly obsessed with the women and being like, this place is heaven. How do I get back there? I talked about learning the language, all this stuff. Never did. Moved on with life. But I wanted to go back to Rio, and I wanted to cover the games. And basketball is not why they're bringing me there. At that time, I was covering basketball for them and being a host reporter up in Boston. So I was like, what if I learn Portuguese? If I learn the language, I think I have an in to go to the games. So around the World Cup, 14, Derek and I went down there for the World Cup. I started learning some stuff before that. Started with Rosetta Stone. Did like 2 or 3 months of Rosetta Stone. Then I find a tutor down in Rio. She played tennis at Oklahoma. And she now lived back in Rio. But she's helped me learn the language. I'm starting to get better. I tell my agent, I think I should pitch NBC on this. I think I can do it. So I go in like the fall of 2015 to meet with the woman that runs the Olympics there in terms of the talent side of things at NBC and tell her that I can speak the language, and heard that you have this thing called Sports Desk where you guys do features on culture and society and food and music and all the things that aren't necessarily sports specific. They run on NBC right before the primetime coverage. I would love to be part of that. And I can do all the stuff in Portuguese and we can translate it, blah, blah, blah. She says, great, sounds great. So I sold. I'm going. As soon as I walk out of that building, I'll never forget that feeling. I'm like, holy shit, I got to really learn this thing. Yeah. Like, I just sold this. I got to do this. So now it's like the last 9 months, I am hardcore. We're on tutor like twice a week. I'm on this site called italki.com, where all it does is match native speakers from one country to another. Yeah. And they have this platform. They want you to speak there and pay money. And everybody's like, F that. You just go to Skype. So I have all these friends in different parts of Brazil, and I'm learning the different accents, and I'm talking all these hours and hours are spent. So we get to Rio. Day of the first interview is like 3 days before the game starts. I'm going to interview this guy named Mr. Sorriso, which means smile. He closed the 2012 Olympics. He was a Gotti. A Gotti is a guy it's a street sweeper during the Carnival. So after a big parade goes through, they clean the street for the next one to come through. He would samba dance while he's cleaning the street, and he became globally famous for this. Okay. And he goes and closes the Olympics in 2012, and they do the pass off to the next Summer Games in London. It's him and Giselle that are like taking it for Brazil, and here we go. So he's my first interview to talk about his like global fame while he still worked as a street sweeper. Yeah. But he had all these other side gigs, speaks no English. We're in the right there, and I can't remember her name. Claire was her name, the producer. And that was the cool thing about NBC is it was an all-star team, bro. It was the best professional experience. You have the best producers, the best editors, the best sound people. Everybody they got is down there. So this, I think, was either Peter Jennings or Dan Rather's normal field producer. So she's used to doing these high-level interviews across all the world, and she's talking to me on the way in the truck and about what you want to get out of this, how you want the piece to be, how long to be, blah, blah, okay. And I'm on the way, bro, whether it was playing in the Garden or playing in like an Ivy League game. I've never been more nervous in my freaking life than on that truck and quieter, because when I'm nervous, I don't talk much. I know it's hard for people to believe. And I'm just sitting there thinking about what I want to ask him. How's it going to go? What if I don't understand it? What if his accent? Because Cariocas, which is the people from Rio, Cariocas, they a lot of their words. They slur a lot of things. So if any accent, the hardest one for me to understand there was the one where the city was at. Like people from Sao Paulo, it's much cleaner. Easier for me to understand. So I'm super nervous. I sit down. We start talking. Start to loosen up. He's joking around. I'm starting to feel it. Here we go. I'm not thinking anymore in English. We're just thinking. Interview goes great. We're dancing at one point. I don't know. He's trying to teach me the samba. We're doing other stuff. Interview's awesome. I feel super relieved. I walk over to talk to her, and she goes, man, I thought you were full of shit, brother. I'm like, really? She goes, She goes, I brought the translator. You didn't realize the translator was here the whole time. I thought she was going to have to come in because I didn't think you have any shot of pulling this off. And I was like, thanks. she goes, why would I think you could do this? You said you just learned the language. I was like, I don't know, because I was obsessed with doing it. She's like, you did a great job. Thank you very much. And I will tell our group going forward, he doesn't need a translator. We can send them somewhere else.
Dude,
and I was
that is a great story. What a hustle, man. Can you still speak?
I speak to Dace basically, like 90% of things I say to Dace, my son, in Portuguese only. So he understands things now.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, bom dia, bom dia. Tudo bem? Tudo bom?
Wow, dude. I never knew that story. That is a hustle and a half right there.
I didn't know you didn't know that. But, yeah, I mean, Lyra was, some of her first words were in Portuguese. Like, I almost spoke exclusively to Portuguese to her because it was coming out of 2016 to, like, we had her in 2018. That she still says feijões, which is beans in Portuguese. She still says that.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing she's carried through. That was my fault of quitting, not doing it as much with her once we got separated, not seeing her as much. I should have just kept going, but didn't, because their brains form where they understand, like they can decipher them on their own. It's fascinating. My brother's kids are Swedish. Half his first wife, there, 3 kids that are Swedish. They would speak Swedish at home, English at my mom and dad's house. They knew who was English and who was Swedish. They could switch back and forth, and they knew to ask mom and dad in this, or me to ask in English, or to mommy and daddy in Swedish, and it's like 2 and 3 and 4. Their brains just figure it out. And Dace is right now. He fully understands things I say to him in Portuguese, and Kelsey can say the same thing in English, and does the same thing. So it's pretty cool to watch them figure it out.
Wow, that is impressive. Do you do like a refresher? I mean, are you trying to keep up, or are you just...
That's the thing, is I like my I speak a lot because I talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
The hardest part is like listening. So like one of Lyra's good friends, the lady that's their nanny, is from Brazil, and I went and dropped Lyra off to play one day with them, and me and her ended up rapping for like 15 minutes in Portuguese. But they don't. At first, I'll say I can talk, and they'll speak English. No, we can go in Portuguese. Like I'm like reassure them, we're fine, and then we will speak in Portuguese. And she was very nice, and mine was good. But the hearing part is rusty because I used to listen to podcasts. I would watch television all the time. Globo was on my screen like nonstop, to the point where I would dream in Portuguese all the time. And that was what it needed to be, you know. And I was like that was important. But if I come across like Gabriel Bortoleto, the guy, the driver for Sauber, he's Brazilian, he's from Sao Paulo. So when I interviewed him 2 weeks ago, before the interview, I talked to him in Portuguese just to kind of loosen him up, and we kind of joke around. And I think that's something that's just helped the interview, because he was a little more comfortable and like, oh, this American, this gringo speaking Portuguese. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. That is fascinating. Isn't it interesting how you can pinpoint the most nervous you've ever been?
Sweaty. I was so sweaty.
Yeah.
It's a room full of people, like that whole people. I'm like, dude, if you break here,
yeah,
all these people, I'm like, what? Because again, you have all the sound people there, you got the camera people. There's 15 people there, for a one-on-one interview, and you can't. I'm like, it's the first one. We're at the game. It's also hot as balls down there. You can't. Yeah. You can't screw this up.
Yeah, I don't get nervous a lot, but you can pinpoint. It's great. That's crazy, man.
Do you have a moment that sticks out for you?
Yeah. A few years ago, I started doing. I was emceeing this. So every year, the Jimmy V has this wine celebration out in Napa, and on the last night they have this massive auction, this gala, and I started emceeing it a few years ago. And I won't name drop. There are some heavy hitters in this room, and a ton of money. I mean, this is raised like that year. I think they raised $25 million. So,
oh my God.
So getting up, and a lot of it, as you know, like it's the unknown that gets me the most nervous. When you're doing something the first time, you have no idea how this is going to go, and the whole thing. So doing that in front of that room was the most nervous I've ever been, and I can pinpoint it, and I don't know if it'll ever be topped. I was really a wreck, and then got off, and you know, like when you got done doing that, you're probably just this like flush of your body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
The live audience too is so different for us. Like when you talk, like we do, like right now, or if we talk in a camera with one person in the studio,
right?
It's just a night and day difference. Like I don't mind talking like in front of. It couldn't be more different.
Yeah. Than
having a live audience versus being in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let me ask you a question. That was a good one, though. All right, I was thinking about this yesterday because of my example with this. But if I could plunk you down, not in a real like a past one, just in a fictional one. But if I could plunk you down in a sports moment where you are in that moment, what would it be for you? Like if you're like, I have always dreamed of being in this sports moment. And I'll give you mine as an example. So mine.
You're saying as a fan or a player?
No,
the player.
as a competitor, as a player.
Competitor, okay.
As a player. So like for me, mine has always been, I would love to be walking down 18 at the Masters, but really any major tournament, either with the win in hand, so just, walking up knowing that you're about to win a major golf tournament, or I just hit a dime and I've got a birdie putt to win the tournament. Like, and I was thinking about it yesterday watching Scottie, but I always have this moment like watching Rory and that whole finish, and like just to be in that moment at a golf tournament, because on Sunday evenings of a major with Jim Nantz talking, telling your story as you walk up and the gallery is on their feet, and you have the ability to just summon a putt to win it, or you're winning a golf major. Like that to me is where I would want to plunk myself down into. So for you, what would it be?
That's a good one. And those are some of those scenes where there was like Arnold Palmer walking up 18 with the crowd behind him, and like Tiger had one of those moments. Those are chilling. Those are something.
And hugging your family, again, man. It's it would be the Masters if I was getting hyper specific.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's mine is corny, is because I guess it's a dream unlived. Like my dream was always like, I wanted to be in the NBA. I wanted to be a professional basketball player when I was a kid, but the dream was like to win an NCAA championship. I used to think that was the coolest thing, to have the one shining moment, to have the Chris Jenkins shot for Villanova, to make that shot for that one moment when you let the ball go. And you know that feeling when you're like, buckets. Like before anybody in the building, when you let that go, that ball's going in. And the whole viewing world, for him, 20 million people are on the edge of their seat. That thing goes in. The elation, the celebration in that moment, that is forever iconic in college sports history. Leitner against Kentucky. Like those are certain shots that we remember as a collective like sporting culture. I would want one of those shots. I think that would be the moment where that shot, and that will be remembered from the next 40, 50 years, that shot at that moment won a title. And for nothing else, I'd want to be remembered for that, which is from an athletic perspective, which is pretty cool. Which is kind of lame because what we did already, but it's like, and it didn't work out, but it's like that's still would be that time.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I would like to drive an F1 car separately.
I thought you might have something related to that.
But I don't want to die.
Yeah.
No, I do. For me, like that's the thing is like not growing up in it. Like, what do I want to do in the sports world? Is drive an F1 car. Like just to feel what that feels like. And maybe I can't turn it at all. I don't know. Maybe just put your own pedal down. Like just go as fast as you can straight and stop. I don't know. I just want to feel what that feels like without killing myself. That's different, I think, than the moment that has like a feeling for me, like memory, personal nostalgia, all that kind of, is bottled together.
Yeah. Like as you think about the different sports, whether it's, a walk-off home run or I don't know what it would be in football, anyway, a catch in the end zone. Anyway, it's like as you look at what those moments could be in different sport, the golf moment is like the one where you can manipulate it, how you walk up 18, like
it's your moment, it's your moment. And the camera's just on you. When we talk about when Rory, the man in the arena, when that picture of Rory by himself looking at that putt, and you have the wide shot of all the bodies with no phones at the Masters just watching him. Yeah, it's a totally different environment. The only one I would think too, though, a goal for the U.S. that would win the World Cup. Mm-hmm. Like if you scored the goal.
Yeah.
Like another quick side note for you. So when we were in Brazil, like I mentioned, Derek and I went for the 14 World Cup. The U.S. is playing Portugal, and in Manaus. So we're in the jungle. We are in the Amazon. The Amazon River's right there. It is like the whole tournament is on the east coast of Brazil, and it's a massive country, except for Manaus, which is basically like L.A. It's a 6 hour flight, L.A. to New York. You were in the middle of nowhere, 100% humidity. We've been overserved all day. U.S. is 0-0. Corner kick gets popped back out to Jermaine Jones. We're all standing up in an all-American section. I knew the guy that was the U.S. soccer president, was a Columbia professor, helped us get the tickets. Pops out to Jermaine Jones. Derek goes, "Give it a hit, Jermaine." I don't know what made him say that, but he bangs it from 22 yards. It goes in. I jump up and turn to like dap up the people we met behind us, and I just blacked out. No. My head went like just darkness, and I like come to. My head is in his like navel junk area, just like flopping around. He's kind of trying to hold me up. I turn, I see Derek like in the middle of the stairway, hugging me, and people look at me like, why was he just in his junk? Like he's totally befuddled. He comes in here, we're hugging. And afterwards, he's like, the guy was just like, I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, but you just kind of blacked out in my junk. But it was great. It was like goal. Like he didn't care. But for those three, it was like 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah. I have no recollection except for coming to and looking just dead in a pair of dungarees right in the package. I can't imagine if I scored the goal. This is the whole point. If I scored the goal, it would be serious blackout. Yeah. If not just to put us up 1-0 in a game against Portugal, which you ended up drawing. They scored the 95th minute. But if you score the goal to win the World Cup, my God, I'd definitely black out again.
That's great.
It's a good question.
Childlike in its innocence.
God. No doubt
Still
about
dreaming,
it.
brother. Still dreaming. Still trying to get in those sports moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or dreaming of being in your brother's navel.
some random dude's navel. I would love to know where that guy is right now. I'd love to know that guy. If he remembers that story as well as I do. Oh, man. Good stuff. Send us a note.